So you're recording now.
It's recording. We're good.
Cool. Okay. I got to double check. You screwed up once. I always got to double check.
I know.
Okay.
So messed up. All right, and let me just double check. You're good now.
Yay. All right.
We're good to go.
You always got to, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, whatever.
I got you.
Make sure it's all, kosher. All right, then let's go ahead and start this. So music starts and we say, welcome. Welcome on in, folks, to the Snap.fan podcast. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming. I don't know who the hell this is next to me, but he is very, very red. Very, very
monster.
red. But
This is the monster, man.
Monster.
Yeah, you know it.
Is that the new dance? Do the monster man. DMCA, but things happen.
This is the persona, man, that has the current World Snap Federation title. Yes, that heavyweight title over here that will be defending it tonight. You know all about that.
Okay. I mean, I do. I know all about it too. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily ready for this competition. Yes, you are. But maybe I don't know. I think it'll be good. What's great too is this moment on audio is going to be really confusing. So I hope people come to watch it on YouTube because
it's true.
It's very entertaining on YouTube and very confusing as hell on Apple and Spotify and all the others. But Default Dan, as always, welcome. And look, it's the end of the season. It's the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
There's typically very little that we've gotten used to saying. It's like, ooh, there's a lot to talk about at the end of the no, there really hasn't been. Like, the savior of the end of the month first was OTAs. Then they took that away from us, kind of, sort of, every now and then. And then they stacked on in new pieces like what we're going to talk about today. For example, Conquest and weekend missions. But more importantly, by the time this podcast goes out to the rest of the world, we should probably, at the time we're recording this, it hasn't gone official yet, but based on the data mines, this could be an absolutely dead podcast. Let's be honest here. We're going to do a whole podcast on Phoenix Force and the Rise of the Phoenix. And
well, we're going to give our thoughts, and we have a little bit of, I won't say inside information, but the devs have explained how some of these cards work, and this will be coming out and potentially the video later today, or sometime this weekend. We don't know, but they should be getting the normal season video that comes out before new season. So
let's not out the devs either, because if all of a sudden they change it and it's not this season, anything that we say about the devs confirming data mines, we are absolutely
I'm not saying data mines. I'm saying specifically we ask how a card worked and the interactions of a particular card, aka Phoenix Force.
But if it is not a revealed card,
well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway, they let us know how the card will
only
work.
Jean Grey technically has been revealed as an unforeseen card, which is why we feel comfortable doing this. Anyway, let's be honest here, because most people listen to the weekend podcast on Saturday mornings for some reason. That seems to be the highest listened to time over the weekend, Saturday morning of all time. It's finally your weekend. I appreciate you kicking it off with us, and thank you.
They're getting up. They're cooking breakfast for the family. They're hanging out. They're listening to us.
I know. Yes, eggs and bacon and Guest and Dan. That's the way to start your weekend. So I think the way we're going to kick it off is we're going to take a look at the new character that we finally, because I think you also got Spider-Man 2099, right?
I did.
Now, are you happy about it though?
So here's the thing. When we talked about Spider-Man 2099, when we talked about Spider-Man 2099 a while ago, and we talked about this season, we only had the one Series 5 card. We were surprised that it was Silk and not Spider-Man 2099, because all of us looked at Spider-Ham and went, meh, it's a funny character. We'll see how he turns out. And then everybody looked at Spider-Man 29 and said, man, this is the card. This is the card that's going to break the meta. Yep. It's going to make Move the best deck in the format. It's going to be amazing. He's the face, or at least a giant face of the new movie. We were surprised he wasn't the Series 5 card. And I am 1,000% glad he was not the Series 5 card, because I don't like him. I've only played a couple games with him, so it's hard to say one way or the other, but I can tell you he doesn't make me want to play more games with him. So I'm just not liking him. How about you, man?
I I struggled writing the what I call, part of the Snap.fan series of the day 2 decks. And we called it on the last podcast where, I said it's going to be a hot take because everybody's been talking about it for the last several weeks that Spider-Man 29 is going to be an awesome, amazing card, et cetera, et cetera. We talked about it on the recording on Monday night prior to his release. And I said, I'm sorry, I am just not that very excited about him. And my thoughts were confirmed. So much so that if you watched content either on Twitch or YouTube about Spider-Man 29 in the 48 hours following, it was always meme decks with Spider-Man 2099 or I regret buying him, or was he a bust, or like it was a lot of these where everyone's in the same exact boat of he's okay and only in one archetype. And the way I kind of broke it down in that article was talking about the fact that if you're going to play Spider-Man 2099, he's going to require a mini move package, right? He has to be put with either Ghost Spider, Cloak, Iron Fist. You have to have at least 2 activators to justify him in movement, which means that's a 3-card package. And that 3-card package for what he brings to the party is kind of just it's not a package you necessarily want to build with other archetypes, even destroy for, the null possibilities, for example. And I sit there looking at destroy decks that run Spider-Man 2099. I look at move decks that run him. I'm like, okay, if you took out the Shang-Chi and put in Spider-Man 2099, sure. It has some pluses, it has some minuses, but I think the thing with 2099 is going to be that this is just not his meta yet. I think when the day comes that we have a card that we can't Shang-Chi that is straight up busted broken, then he will rise. And until then, he's just put him into a move deck that has all of these cards already because it feels awful. Even in a Thanos deck, trying to move him with the Space Stone. Like I tried things.
Yeah.
It's just too niche to make him regular.
Yeah. The problem is what he needs is going to make him busted. What he needs is to be able to do it every time he moves. And if that means he needs to be a 5-drop so that you're setting up this weird like Iron Fist on 4 into him on 5 into something else to move him on 6 like Ghost Spider. But it's like he's on 2 different planes. He either needs to be a 3-drop so you can make this weird surfer move whatever deck with him, or he needs to be activating multiple times. And again, multiple times is it sounds great, but it's also very bad because then you just do something where you're like, all right, I'm going to Iron Fist on 3, play him on 4, boom, just killed something. On 5, I'm going to Ghost Spider plus, Cloak, and now boom, I've killed something else. And then the next turn I killed something else, right? And I'm getting 3 kills. That's going to be a little busted in a move deck. But the fact that he only does it once, it's a random card at that location. So unless you're playing like Shuri, and even playing Shuri now, because you play the card on the location with Shuri, you're not guaranteed to hit it. And it has to be revealed. Like there's all these stipulations to it to where he sounds good on paper, but if I'm doing something where it's like Spider-Man 2099 plus Ghost Spider on turn 6, I would much rather be doing a Shang-Chi on turn 6. Or I'd much rather be doing a Stegron or a Juggernaut to get it off the location. Like I think that there's just so many better plays because it's the 1 kill and the not 1 guaranteed kill compared to your other kill cards are fairly guaranteed. Just with the way their specs turn out and what they target. So I don't know. I want him to be good, but until he can either target or he kills and he's not going to be a Shang-Chi, right? He's not going to kill anything above 9. But like if he only targets high cards or something like that, maybe. But as of now, the RNG is just too bad to make him work. And
I feel like maybe you could put the anti-Chi on him. First time this card first time it moves to a location, destroy. No. The destroy an enemy card, 8 power or under.
Well, we have a card, right, coming with eventually, right? Datamine's Asterisk, but we are Snap.fan. But Asterisk, Isn't Lady Deathstrike all under 8? Every card below the power of this card gets destroyed.
I don't remember, to be honest. I mean, I'll try and pull it up on the back end real quick, but even if it is, he needs help. That's the big point.
No, I agree. I agree.
He absolutely needs help. And because of just the way his package works, I could see him being a target card that people complain enough about that they look to rework very quickly. So I
don't know about very quickly, but I do agree. I do think he'll be on the list of and it won't be an OTA, right? Because it's not. It's like maybe an OTA if you make him a 3. Outside of that, it's a patch, right? Like it's a rework of what he's doing at some level.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see, because we know as Second Dinner right now is on their summer vacation. They've already mentioned that when they get back, they'll be looking at some level High Evolutionary, how it's doing, all of that. They're gonna have to figure out Conquest, which we'll talk about in a second. Like, what does that meta look like, and what they're gonna do there. So they've got a lot to look at, to where I feel like it'll be a month or two, and the benefit is he's a Series 4 card. If it was just a Series 5 card, I feel like there'd be so many more people raising their hand, complaining, whatever. But if you spent 3,000 tokens, yes, it doesn't feel great, but at least you didn't spend 6, right?
I'd be livid because...
And I do want to just go on one other point that you mentioned, which is the package that he has to go in, right? Like, the fact that you really need 2 movers to guarantee that you can use him is his issue. And if you look back, right, we've always had this meta where there's a lot of good 2-card packages. Black Bolt Stature, right? We've got quite a few others. But then when we look at 3-card packages, you have things like Darkhawk, right? And I say that because you either have something like Zabu, Rockslide, Darkhawk, or you have Darkhawk, Korg, Rockslide. And the thing is, when you get into these kind of combos, you look at that 3-card combo and it's like, well, why would I ever play this Spider-Man 2099 3-card combo to maybe hit a card that I care about, compared to playing a 3-card combo like Darkhawk? And it's like, it doesn't matter what card of that you play, the benefit of every single one of those cards is high. Whereas the package that he has to run into, Ghost Spider, the more I've played her, I love her in certain matchups and things like that. But the more I play her, I'm just like, usually moving the card, unless it's a move deck, like outside of a move deck, moving that card really doesn't do much, right? So it's maybe a sneak attack that you maybe can get on something, but it's not as impactful as, putting a rock in their deck that they draw and now they had a dead draw, right? Or looking at some of the other combos that are out there. So I 100% agree with you. I think the investment, the way you have to build him into decks, just really limits what decks he can be in. And because of that, if you haven't got him, don't worry about it. It'll eventually series drop, or you may pull him when we get to this whole new rework of card acquisition next month. So yeah, if you haven't got him, if you're not a huge move player, I would say he's a pass. But if you're a huge move player and that is your archetype and everything you ever play, try him out. He's 3,000 tokens if you have it. Yeah. But definitely there's going to be some better cards, next month, as well as some previously better cards, like Jeff is still, in my opinion, one of the better investments when you're looking at some of those cards.
Yeah, he's just an card. Like I tried him on ladder. I did not try him in Conquest because I saw absolutely no reason to do so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially, with Infinity Week live for the very first time. I never went, who I want to risk my Infinity ticket with?
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2099. Like, that's just, to me, not the case. It was it's the first, it's the first week of Infinity Conquest. How do you, now that you've had the opportunity to, see it and see people's reactions to it, how do you feel about the reception to this Infinity Week overall?
All right. So publicly, with everybody that I've seen, I think it was received pretty well. Personally, I hate it and I love it. So I'm on two extremes of it because one, I have not got my infinity border yet, but I want to talk about the first stuff, and then I've got a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory towards the end of this. So you'll need your tinfoil hat when we get there, but for now, I would say
it's always here.
Yeah,
I'm ready.
I love what it is. I love that it's a new mode. It makes ladder feel almost bleh, because even if you're just in proving grounds or whatever, like even if I'm not trying to go up the Infinity Conquest, I feel like it's more fun to play outside of the people who like snap and emote. Proving grounds there's a lot of toxic people in there, but it's one of those things where like I enjoy it because I get to play multiple rounds. It feels more like the other game I used to play, Magic. I know I have to say it, but it feels more like a real game with stakes, and it's fun. Yeah. I hate it because of the RNG. I hate the fact that I have made it to the 5th match of Infinity, I think 5 times now, and got just the worst matchup I could possibly get, and just lose. Like literally, I'm playing a bounce deck, and I'm going through and I'm beating High Evolutionary. I'm beating Panther's Ult, like all these awesome decks, and I'm just barely beating, winning. I get to the 5th one, and it's like, oh, here's a Nimrod Galactus whatever deck, and literally they just beat me. Or I go against some random deck and they have Wave. Like looking at their deck, Wave doesn't make sense for their deck, but they have Wave every game on turn 5. So now I'm having to rework whatever deck I'm playing mid battle or what. It's just that's the frustrating part, is the RNG, and I get it. It's part of the mode, and that's totally fine. But it's almost like I'm in round 5, they're in round 1, and they just beat me, and I had to climb all the way there, and they were trying out some weird deck and beat me. But then they lost next round when they faced like a High Evolutionary deck, right, or whatever. So I don't know. It's good and bad, but overall, I would say it's more good than bad overall. The frustrating part is about the process, and I think it needs to be. So I'll go back to that after we get your opinions. But I know, man, it was a little bit easier for you to get all the way up there this time around. But what did you think? Because I know you didn't play Conquest too much during the week, because the past couple weeks, because you've had so much going on, but you were able to jump in there, I know, the last week.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I was one of those like, okay, I'll get to Conquest as I can, and I'll try hard-ish, come the final week, just to see, see how I do, see how I do. And I decided to challenge myself on stream to go from Proving Grounds all the way through with the same deck and see if I can do it nonstop. I brought in a deck. I went from Proving Grounds to Infinity level 2, lost to a near mirror match of my deck, tried with another Infinity ticket, and then got it on the second turn. So it's one of the few times I can say I have something that you don't right now. So I'm quite okay with that, and I will gladly find every shaker that I can find in this house just to keep raining salt as much as I can onto you.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I'm not as salty, because literally you can't tell a difference in that frame compared to the normal frame right now. So
I'm
know. Less salty. I'm less salty.
That's part of my contention with this, is that yes, the Infinity border looks great everywhere except in a battle. It looks great on the display screen on a gray background. It looks great on the black "you won this frame" reward screen. Looks great. You go into a battle and you see that background there, the giant floating asteroid rock thing in the back.
Yeah.
You can't tell. You cannot tell. The matchup screen, even, you can barely tell. You have to be looking at it with like old man glasses, be like, oh, there it is. Like, oh, it is shiny. Oh, good. Like, it's not enough. And this isn't the first time that we've had these kinds of conversations when it comes to Infinity issues. We've had the Infinity prize to work towards.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's too bland. Like it needs to
Yeah.
be brighter. It needs to be more animated. It needs a major VFX update, or every month it needs to be different colors, different options, different layouts, so that way there's constant incentive. Because
Yeah.
this is something else that I'm hearing, from the community, not just the fact that the VFX is very weak on it, but the fact that the VFX is just not that impressive
Yeah.
and not that much of a statement piece to say, hey, I kicked everybody's butt in the Infinity Conquest week, and now I have this, special border. Is that worth 2 hours of my time to get that little cosmetic? I'm not saying switch it for a financial, currency in the game in any way. I'm saying the value of the amount of time that you put in versus okay, well, it can be this. It could be a random one, or you can't
it is different because so just talking about prizes right now, right? Like it was one thing that I kind of struggled with a little bit with the ladder. So I love the card backs. Don't get me wrong. I love the card backs. When they did titles, I hated the titles. But they came back to card backs, and I like them because you do get something that you can flex with. You can show it off. You can do whatever. My problem with them, and it comes to the same thing with this Infinity prize, is the fact that, okay, if I want to flex, I literally have to make every deck I'm playing that season's card back, right? And so, because here's the thing, right? You may like the gold cassette tape from the Guardians stuff. I think it looks really cool, but it's not this month's. So now if you're using that, or let's say 3 months in the future, you're using that, it's less of a flex. Because, oh, you got it 4 months ago, you must not have this month's because you're not using it, right? And I get the same issue with this because it's this random border. We don't know specifically. I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere long ago in one of the chats that it's the same thing every month. It's not a different color. It's not a different whatever. I don't have confirmation, but that's my understanding. So next month you win it again, you get the same color border. And it's on a specific avatar, right? So like if I wanted to now, next month I get the Phoenix Force one or whatever. I don't know what's coming out with it. But I get the newest one. And I'm like, oh, this is a cool one. It doesn't have the border, right? So if I'm flexing on people, I have to use this particular one that I won the border on. Or I've got to win like 7 or 8 of them, right? Just so I can flip through my borders. But it doesn't show anybody that I've won 8 times. It doesn't show anybody that I won it this month and not last month. So honestly, I think if this is a flex or whatever it should be, and it would make you feel better about it, I think it should be account driven. And I think that either it should go from, and again, I was talking to Super Tech God and Matrim the other day, and we were kind of bouncing back and forth on a lot of this. So I'm not saying this is my specific idea, but we were kind of throwing it around. Like maybe every season you win it, it goes from gray to, green, blue, or, all the different colors. Yeah. And so after you've won it so many times, you get Infinity. Maybe after that, I don't know what it would look like, but maybe you get Crackle. I don't know, but like, I feel like, or even at a minimum at the bottom, it should have a number, like right below your image, there should be like a 1 and then a 2 and then a 3, so that you start to see like, oh man, this guy has 6. So if you look at somebody like Lammy has 4 or 5 at this point, but nobody would know it outside of being on his Twitter and him like showing a picture of it. Like in game, you wouldn't know. So I do struggle a little bit to your point of pricing, because if you want the rewards in the shop, you don't have to even get to infinite. You just grind on all the other ones and you can get enough medals to get everything you want. So like, what is the point of this? And I'm not saying that because I'm salty because I don't have one. I'm just saying in general.
Yeah, no,
like,
in general.
If you have it this month and you get to next month, are you, and I'll kind of put that question to you, are you going to be just as incentivized to do that much work, especially if you don't win it your second time, right? Especially if you've done it 7 or 8 times now and haven't got it. Is it worth time to keep trying to get this little border?
Right. So I agree with the numerical style reward system in some way. Kind of thinking of it like Twitch. When you have a monthly subscriber, You have different icons that say, okay, you're a 1 month subscriber, 3 month subscriber,
Yeah.
9 month, 12, 2 year, etc. Like you have these different levels to rank up, kind of like, military rankings. You now have a captain border, a sergeant border, a lieutenant border, whatever it is. You have these accessible. And I think having that level would be very cool. But it would have had to have been something that they either roll out in the very beginning, because it's going to be hard to get people on board with having it be retrograded into the system, only because if that was the case, you're basically telling them, hey, if you want to have a border that has multiple levels on it, you're only ever going to be able to get it on the ones that were available in the very first month that Infinity Conquest premiered. So it's not like I could get a tier 2 version of the border on a Jean Grey border from Avatar from next month.
Well, that's
you wouldn't be able to do that. So
you
have to find some kind of like if it's gonna be an account or a count on it, do you attribute it then to every single Infinity border that you have? That, hey, I'm rocking an Infinity border, and now all of them show 2 stars or 3 stars or whatever it is.
I think that's how you do it, but I also think it's a one-time reward for a season. So like right now, again, that we've already quote unquote made mistakes, right? You can get multiples, but I'm saying like I think the real way they should approach this maybe they can fix it in the future, I don't know, is it should have been account driven. So it doesn't matter what, avatar I change it to, it's the border. And then I think on top of that, it should be every season that you get it, you get this numerical stars, whatever you want it to look like, right? I don't think color's going to work, because eventually you're just going to be like, I don't know if blue is better than cyan. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, there's going to be like all of these different...
literally just pick 2 blues as your best example, really?
Well, yeah, because you're not going to know which one or whatever, but you know what I mean? Like, because eventually they're going to run out of the base colors of card borders right now. So we're going to get into some crazy colors at some point. But we
can't even customize those.
Right. So it's just one of those where, like, I think that's how it should have been. Because the problem, again, is unless they start to change the color, which as of now, I don't think they will, because, again, this is the Infinity card border that they're using to showcase this. And again, sure, you can add a VFX effect or whatever, but like, does that mean every month there's going to be a different effect? And then even then, is that going to matter? No, it's not going to. So I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's cool that you have a trophy you can show off. I think it's cool for the people that are out there that will eventually, it will happen eventually. They'll have every card, every avatar in their whole collection will have the border. It'll be an amazing feat to look at and see, and awesome that they can complete that. I just think it's one of those things that once you have one, the average player, they'll use that one no matter what deck they're using, just like we have right now with the card backs. They use the same card back on every single deck because it's the card back of the month. So I don't know. I'm liking it. I like how difficult it is. So I want to go back to that because, again, you're on the side of it took you 2 times to go through there and you got it. I'm on the side that I've literally gone through it at least, I don't know, 8 or 9 times now, because a couple of those I've lost on, round 4 or several of them on round 5. And it's just one of those things. And I know it's not just me. Matrim did the same thing. I think he's got to round 5 like 4 or 5 times and lost. And it's just frustrating, but I do think it needs to be that way. I've seen some talk of, well, maybe should there be 1 loss that you can have? Maybe should there be, some grace on some of the stuff? And I don't think there needs to be, because I do think it's different than ladder. I do think it's different than, some of these other modes, and this should be the hard one. But we'll start there, and I've got one other item about Conquest I want to talk about. But like, from your side, do you think that the way they have it set up, 1 loss, you're out? Because again, like, if you only have the 1 infinite ticket, you lose. Now you're back down to proving grounds, working your way all the way back up. Like, do you think that's good, or do you think they should do something?
I mean, removing personal experience from it, where, I had 2 tickets and I got it. It speaks to the volume very similarly to what you're talking about, which is if someone does it whenever they do it, all right, they got it. They got the one that they wanted, and everything else is bonus after that.
Yeah.
You know, you think of people who are known for certain borders, like you think of Banks, for example. He's known for using the leader border as an example. You think Jeff Hoagland, he loves that Baron Mordo one. He's used that one, and there's another one that he also uses like interchangeably. Yeah. Those are the two that he's most well known for. Like there are certain people you associate certain icons with.
Cozy and Star-Lord. We got it.
Yeah, Cozy and Star-Lord.
It's him
exactly.
in there. Yeah.
This is true. But like people have them, and then once they have them, then it's just extra. Maybe they also need to incentivize earning an avatar, an actual avatar, not just the avatar border. So that way it's hey, you got this exclusive one from this season. We're going to border the one that. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
I know.
For winning Infinity Conquest, not just grinding the proving grounds 50 times.
I know.
There's a big difference. So
I agree
think
with
adding that helps. It's a simple fix, but you get the Infinity Avatar, the specialty one, and you get the Infinity Border on the avatar that you used. Then you've got 2 of them for that reward. In regards to the 5 wins, after experiencing a loss in round 2 and then getting the hit, getting it all the way through on the second go, that round 5, I mean, going into round 4 and round 5, you know, it was sweaty. It was definitely like, I'm super focused and tuned in, and kind of looking at it retrospectively, I sit here and I debate against myself, saying on the one end, yes, it is an incredibly difficult task.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was as difficult as I expected it to be, and as intense as I expected it to be. And I guess that's what the question is this game mode supposed to be incentivizing that? Is this game mode supposed to be something casual that you could do well with, like getting infinite in ladder, in my opinion, is way more casual than getting infinite in Infinity Conquest. 100%. So getting the infinite card back is one thing, but getting the much more try-hardy game mode of Conquest, getting that infinite border, I'm actually more on the side now of leaning towards, I think the 5 wins is appropriate.
Yeah.
Because earning the achievement just feels that much better. However, the achievement needs to be better. So right now, with the Infinity Border, I would expect that as a reward for a gold conquest effort. If you won 3 in a row, I could see getting an Infinity Border. Winning 4 in a row, you get the Infinity Avatar. Winning 5 in a row, you get the Infinity Avatar's Infinity Border. Yeah. If you put that gold, gold Infinity mega ranking into you winning 4 wins and 5 wins, so it's kind of like a consolation prize that's still harder, if not as hard, than the Gold Conquest. I think that there's a solve within that. But again, that's looking at a full system rework and rewarding those who can actually get 5 wins in a row, but also rewarding those who get 4 wins in a row, because that is the sequential piece to this. Or it's inverted, whatever the order is. I think there needs to be a better reward. But as for the actual difficulty of the mode and going through it, I think that it's more attainable than I think the community expected it to be, including myself. So I'm okay. I'm okay with the 5, but either they need to make the full reward way better, or they need to also add like a 4 win in a row. You got this reward, not just medals. You got this reward, because especially if you do it like you've gotten to the 4th level several times. There's only so many random boosters you can convert those medals into.
That's all I'm doing. I'm getting the 105 boosters every single time, which is fine, but now I don't have credits, so I'm just stacking up boosters for nothing. But yeah, I mean, if I had to make one change outside of the prize, because I agree with you, I don't feel like the reward warrants the effort of going all of that. And again, this is coming from the fact that I've tried this thing a bunch of times. But I think that the one thing I would say that they could add that would be a bonus for everybody is when you complete a tier, not just one match, I'm saying the whole tier. So when I complete gold, not only should I get an infinity ticket, I should get a gold ticket. That way, when I lose potentially infinity, I have a free try at gold. Same thing, you complete infinity or infinite or whatever, infinity, you get an infinity ticket. Because here's the thing, like I get it from the perspective of I've got my border, I'm done, don't need to touch it again. But you're having to go all the way down to proving grounds. Even if you win infinity, you're still having to go down to proving grounds to get all the way back up to a ticket. Now, here's the thing. Listen though, if I win gold, I get both my tickets. I go to infinite. I try to get up there. I lose. I don't have to start back at proving grounds. I can go back to gold. I can try it again. If I lose, now I'm having to go back down silver because I would have had a silver ticket from when I beat it going to gold. I lose again there. I'm back down to proving grounds. It's a tiering system back down that rewards you of I've made it up and I'm not having to like, bam, you're down, go all the way to the start. Because right now that's what I'm having an issue with is every time I want to make another run, I start from proving grounds. I go all the way up. I get to round 5 of infinite. I lose. And now I got to go all the way to proving grounds to win those tickets back. I've already used my stockpiles. I've already done all my stuff that I did prior to infinite week. And again, I don't see any downside to that. I don't it's just going to help.
I do. Yeah, I do from the sense of, granted, man, I am full on a parent shill mode because I keep thinking about second dinner and what they're going to need economically, because in many ways that doesn't help the economy of the mode. In many ways, it doesn't benefit second dinner to do that because they have to find a balance between, game economy as well as screen time, right? They have to increase screen time, but also at what cost of game economy coming from that. So in that aspect, I think if you look at Heist rewards, for example, if you tiered it out, because I'm not going to lie, half the people who just listened to what you just said were all confused as fuck. So I'm just going to take it and redo it differently. Yes, they were. I know they were.
When you win, you get a ticket of the one you won plus the next one so you can advance. And if you lose on the one you advance, you have the chance to redo the one you just beat without having to go all the way to the start.
But that won't work. Financially. It won't work for second dinner, and there's no reason for them to want to roll that out. I think the solution relies on doubling back just far enough. So, for example, if you're trying to progress up, right? You're starting from the proving grounds. Proving grounds, it is what it is. Silver, in my opinion, it is what it is. Also, you win one, you lose one. It's the same thing as if you win one, you lose one, you lose one, you lose one. It doesn't matter. It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So it really affects gold and infinity. So I think the way to go about it safely, in my opinion, is if you're in gold conquest and you complete the second level of gold conquest, you earn a silver ticket, because then it kind of gives you your net to fall back on. You don't have to go back to the proving grounds all the way, but you go back to having the rank before it. And then, so that way, say you make it to the very top of gold and you lose. Okay, well, now I don't have to do at least a proving grounds. I can just go immediately back to silver. It doesn't take you back to square one. It just takes you one rank back. Same thing with infinity. I think the solve there is if you beat the second level of infinity conquest, it gives you a gold ticket. Because if you go into infinity and you lose on round one, you lose on round one. It is what it is. But if you lose on the second one, you've now gone through 2 battles, which means to get back to that same point, you would still have to win 5 in a row, starting from gold at the very bottom, getting back to the second level of infinity conquest again. So I think that that's far back enough.
I could
and
use
still rewards that.
I'm okay with that compromise. It's the same. So here's the thing. Yours is more confusing than mine, but I get what you're saying.
I'm
Mine is
just a much clearer speaker than you are. That's all.
No.
People followed mine. They have no idea what the hell you said.
Yours is more confusing in the fact that now you have to win X to do that, but I get what you're saying. And I agree with you. And that's what I'm saying in general is right now, when you get to Infinite, if you don't have stockpiles of tickets and you get all the way there and you lose, you literally have to now go, okay, I have to go through X matches. And it's a lot of matches.
I'm gonna put an asterisk on it though. This system only applies in the final week of the month because otherwise people will spam the gold system to get a boatload of silver tickets. So yeah, like that whole gold level of getting a silver ticket built within it, that can't happen. It's only during the final week of the season. Let's put that out there before people go, oh, but then they can just spam all the tickets. Troll. No, we don't want that shit.
I mean,
just
I would have to see, like, even with that during the other weeks, because you're still going, all right, I'm having to beat gold, and then you're going to get extra tokens, but I'd have to see like what kind of financial whatever that would even really do overall. Because again, it isn't like you're able to get like infinite credits or anything in the game. You're buying boosters, and boosters don't matter. You're always going to get a card you don't want anyway. So that's been my case with all my boosters. But yeah, anyway, I like the compromise is fine as far as that. I'm just saying it feels really bad when you have to go all the way back, and it's a lot of stuff. So in my opinion, we'd have to look at the data and stuff like that. But in my opinion, there are people that when they finally get to this infinite, they got the medals to get their free infinite ticket. They tried to do their run. They got to the 5th round. They lost. They may not pick up Conquest again. They may already have their Green Goblin card. They may already have their avatar, whatever little reward that they wanted, their title. And now they're like, I'm done. I'm not doing it for the rest of the week, that whole week or whatever. And so that screen time that they're hoping for is not there. Whereas if you had that, I'm more likely to pick this back up to go, okay, I got one more shot in gold. We've got the free ticket. Let's try to do this run again. And again, I'm sure right now on their mind is how many people are going to spend gold to try that infinite thing. But I'm telling you guys, if you're listening in, my opinion is do not ever spend gold on Conquest, especially with the way the reward is right now. Like, it is not worth it. 500 gold or whatever it is to try infinite again, because if you lose round 5, you're going to be really mad you spent that gold. So yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's the cost on it is astronomical. It's unreasonable in my opinion for an infinity attempt. 500 gold. But that's a conversation for another cocktail. I see what they're doing with it, but like that's just too much. When you spend intervals of 80, 200, and 500, I think you've gone a little too far. I think the scaling on it is just a little unreasonable. Like 50, 150, 100, 300. Sure, let's talk. People may actually use gold then. But 500 gold, that's just a little too pricey in my opinion.
The last thing of Conquest before we move to all the new stuff coming out, I got to put on the tinfoil hat because.
All right, I'll grab it.
Yeah, because.
It's ready. Go. Shoot.
I believe one of the reasons why I'm struggling, and I'm not trying to make up excuses, I'm just saying, one of the reasons I think that people are struggling in general is the matchmaking system. So again, I don't have details, but like when we were talking with creators and things like that, it was mentioned of the question of how are matchmaking happen in here, because it's not like ladder where we go, all right, it's X ranks below, it's X ranks above, and it's all of this kind of stuff. MMR. I think MMR does play a role in the matchmaking, but it was mentioned that wins play a role in matchmaking as well. So trying to find, if possible, right? And they're just going to match you with whoever. They're not going to let you wait for 2 or 3 minutes for a match, right? They're going to try to, within a minute, they're going to try to match you. But there is a spot where number of wins matters. And based on who has so many wins around you, is who puts it there. So I do believe a lot of these people, like yourself, I'm not saying you're bad at the game or anything like that. I'm just saying in general, you played 1 week of Conquest, and there's a potential that the people you were facing had the same amount or close to same amount of wins. And I'm not saying win percentage. I'm just saying number of wins based on what was said. Now, I've asked a question to see if I can get some clarity around that, but I'm wondering if the people who grinded Proving Grounds, Silver, Gold, everything going into Infinite Week, and I have tons of wins because I grinded a bunch of random tickets, does that affect, and I believe it does, affect the caliber of person you are potentially going against when you start Infinite? Because you're going also against people who have similar wins. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm wondering if that is a factor, because I look at, again, talking to Matrim, talking to some of these other guys who are struggling just like me. We all did it. We grinded so many wins in the first week, the first 2 weeks of this. We got to Infinite, and we're seeing a lot of the try-hardy whatever type decks that probably have similar win system. Now, this is tinfoil hat. So again, I'm not saying this is how the system works. This is just my understanding based on some messages and things like that. And this is where I wanted to kind of ask that question of, do you think this is a thing when it comes to Infinite?
I think it's all going to depend on us getting feedback from the devs of, are the levels individual MMRs? Like, is Proving Grounds MMR the same as Infinite MMR? Or is it just, is it overall Conquest MMR, or are each rank's MMRs different? Because if they are different, Silver is almost always going to be a positive rate, in my opinion, comparatively. Proving Grounds is just sandbox mode. And then when you're looking at Gold and Infinite, that's where I worry about it, if that is the case. I can't speak to that. I don't think that that's 100% true. I think that when it comes to how the matchmaking is done, they may only tell us parts of it, not all of it. We're never going to fully know, oh, this is what it is. But I don't know how much of it is matchmaking in that aspect, especially because it's the first month. It's very hard to tell. But we can confirm that the fall off system exists, where it's like it's trying to match you with someone who's got 4 wins in a row or 3 wins in a row, just like you. And if it doesn't see it, then after a certain number of, seconds or minutes or whatever, then, okay, we're going to lower that threshold. So chances are, if you're getting matched up against someone in the first 5 seconds, they probably are on similar rank level as you in the Infinity Conquest or Gold, etc. But specifically in Infinity in the final week. So I'm not comfortable in saying that it's definitely that. But I would not be surprised if that was a part of it, though.
And so it's just one of those things where I wonder if this potentially decentivizes you to grind as much in the first couple weeks and wait till towards the end. And again, I'm not trying to take anything away from you, guest, of being able to go through it twice and do it. There's many, right? There's so many people that did it, but I'm also looking through the Twitter messages, the Facebook messages, and all of that, especially day one, where it's like, I did it first try, and you look at their deck and you're like, how? Like, how does this beat a bounce deck? How does this beat a high evolutionary deck multiple times? And I'm wondering if it's just like they ran Gold or whatever the week before, or you get medals and you can get your Infinite ticket, and then they just got that bare minimum to get the Infinite ticket. Does this incentivize doing that, sitting around and waiting, only playing enough to get that Infinity ticket, waiting till Infinity Week, buying that ticket, and just running up with it? You know what I mean? So again, I'm not saying that's the case. I just want to put it out there. This is my very few times that I speculate on these kind of things, but it's an interesting concept of how they do matchmaking, because again, I've noticed, not just Infinite, I've noticed even going into Proving Grounds, Silver, Gold, working my way back up, my matches, and this also could just be people are getting better at the mode, are way more difficult than they were the first few times when I was easily going up with certain decks and things like that. And again, this may be meta shifts, people playing cards to answer certain cards, but even in Proving Grounds, it feels a lot different. So
I think it's sweatier too, because the week is ending. We're slowly, it's the very beginning, and you've got 7 Infinity tickets. Hey, you know what? Let me try this deck just for fun. And I'll throw 1 ticket at it. And it does okay, or maybe it doesn't. But now that the week is going, everybody's in try hard mode, and they go, okay, go to Snap.fan. These are the meta decks.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna run this. We're gonna run this version of Evo. We're gonna run this bounce deck. We're gonna run this discard deck. We're gonna run this, whatever it is. Like, that's what I think it more so is. At this point, on this Friday morning that we're recording this, it's people going, half the week is gone, and I've got plans this weekend. So now I'm just gonna try hard. So the group of decks that people work with is much smaller.
Yeah. So we'll see. I know we focus a lot on Conquest right there, and there's going to be more as we look at next month, right? And we see what the rewards look like for next month of Conquest, as well as what do those runs look like? Like, are people adjusting to different metas and things like that? Are we going to get the quick Conquest, infinite stuff like we did within the first couple hours of it going live next month? Because the one thing to remember is we had one less week this particular Conquest. So if you think about like, I got to hit all my rewards and stuff like that, or I didn't, you get one extra week next week. So I think it's going to be fun looking at what Conquest looks like as it evolves month over month. I don't expect too many changes for next month based on Second Dinner being out. So it'll be the same thing outside of, here's the new card and the new avatar like we have with the Green Goblin variant. So I'm excited about that. But talking about next month, all the stuff coming in, we got the Phoenix Force and that whole kind of season pass, all of that, bearing that, nothing changes because data mines are data mines and things can change. But we have Phoenix Force, which has changed a couple times now in the data mines, but this is kind of where we've landed. A 5/6 on reveal, revive one of your destroyed cards, merge with it, and that card can move each turn. What are your initial thoughts? And then we can kind of talk through. We do have some answers on how she actually works on the board, so I think that's kind of cool. But what are your thoughts on the card? Are you excited about the season pass? Is this gonna be the card you definitely want to get?
I mean, as a season pass, either way, I'm going to recommend it to people for not just the actual card access, but more importantly, the value of what you get out of the season pass. It's just overall worth it. But when it comes to the card itself, I think the card is gonna have some very fun, cheeky plays that we can slowly evolve from it because it's doing two things simultaneously. Number one, it's doing a brand new mechanic, which is to revive a destroyed card, which has never happened before. We've never had a card that brings one that has been destroyed. We have Ghost Rider with discard, but not one that is, and Hela technically, but like not one that is dedicated to, hey, we're going to bring back something that you absolutely decimated or somebody else decimated away from you.
Yeah.
So the destroy mechanic of this is the first piece to it. The second piece to it is the fact that this card can move when it happens. That movement on adding 6 power to a card, so basically Hulkbuster plus, onto something that you have had destroyed via one of the two of you. I mean, you've got lockdown possibilities, you've got destroy possibilities, you've got move possibilities, you've got hybrid possibilities. Like, it's a very flex card for all those different archetypes, and I like it in that aspect because we talked earlier in the podcast about packages, right? Building packages, having cards that do multiple functions. For example, when you play Beast, okay, you can play Beast in the bounce deck, but you can also double him up in a Surfer deck because he's also a 3 cost, for example. You have these double pieces of synergies, and Phoenix Force appears to be a card that's going to have that value for us also too somehow. I haven't sat down personally and thought of all of the theory crafting possibilities of what Phoenix Force is going to, put out there, but just the idea that I can run a destroy deck and I can say, okay, I'm going to have Venom eat that 8 power Carnage and then bring back one of the 4 cards that all of those cards ate up and then shift it around again and having it remerge with something like Nimrod and then redestroy. Like, there's so many cool options that we could run with this.
Yeah, so there's a couple open questions there that we don't have clarity on, but I'll explain her mechanic real quick based on what the devs have told us. So this is coming from the devs. When she comes down, she is her own space. The card that comes in is in the space of the Phoenix Force, of her. So this is not like Hulkbuster where you need a card and a space. This is not a Ghost Rider where you need a card and a space. Literally, you play her in the space and she turns into that destroyed card. So that's one plus side. So if you have one space open, she can still work there. We had this kind of, I wouldn't say argument, but we had this thing a couple weeks ago. We were talking about this going, there's no way they keep their abilities plus get this move ability, and they do. They also get their on trigger abilities. So if you played Black Panther got, punched in the face by Shang-Chi, and then you played her, that Black Panther would come by and trigger again. Now, I don't have confirmation that his power would stay. I believe it will because of the way null works. So if 16 power, 100%. I'm just saying, like, they should. I don't have confirmation, so I don't want to say it will until I know for sure they say, yes, it will be the 16 power Black Panther and then trigger again to, like 50, 60, 44. Whatever it is. Right. So, but I think it's going to be cool. I think the downside, right? And this goes back to those packages you're talking about. I think a lot of people are thinking about Destroy, and it's not going to be the typical Destroy deck, because the typical Destroy deck has little cards that you're killing. You're killing a Bucky, you're killing a Nova, and like in your sense where you just mentioned an A power Carnage, right? So you had a Bucky plus a Nova, you threw Carnage down, it did its thing. You threw Venom down, now Venom ate the Winter Soldier plus, Carnage. Well, when I throw it on Phoenix Force, it's a random card. I may get the Nova back, and now I have a 5/7 that can move. Not very impressive, right? Compared, or the Bucky, the Winter Soldier, and it's like I've got a 5/7 who can move. I do think that there's going to be some fun stuff. So like if you did like let's say Human Torch into a Ghost Spider into or like, I don't know, like something around those, and then you Killmongered it, and then you played this, and now you get Human Torch back. He can move, and he's going to double again. Like, I do think that there's going to be some really awesome stuff you can do. Is it going to be meta? I don't know. But then you also mentioned Nimrod. I would be interested is, can it hit cards that are not in your graveyard? Because essentially when Nimrod dies, he dies, but the card Nimrod is not in your, and again, it's a magic thing. It's not in your graveyard. He's back on the field. So I'm wondering, would this bring back?
No, that's not true. No, he's in your graveyard, because then if you Ghost Rider it, the third one reappears.
Oh, he does. Okay. I've never Ghost Ridered a Nimrod, so I wasn't sure. Okay. So if that's,
it's the same thing with Wolverine.
No, Ghost Rider won't bring him back because he wasn't discarded. Ghost Rider brings back discarded.
If you Zola Wolverine, you end up with 3 Wolverines. Same things. It's just the way that it duplicates.
Right. No,
because
but see,
it puts one in, duplicates, and then puts the other 2 down.
But what I'm saying is they're not in your, so when you kill Wolverine, rather than him killing, he comes back with +2. The other 2 get created because but the same thing where you're going with Nimrod. Instead of Nimrod dying, he gets replicated in the 2 things. So I think it's semantics, but I don't think, and I want to get a confirmation from the devs, I don't think there's a Nimrod to be revived from Phoenix Force. I think when that card were to die, he instead becomes 2 other cards. And it's a replacement effect, and he's not in a graveyard to be pulled back.
I think that with Phoenix Force, the synergy in general that I'm looking at is looking at cards that are big that you can die before turn 4, or sorry, on turn 4 or earlier, right? So the biggest one that I look at is, this is basically like a build your own Namor, or build your own Orca, if you will, because you could play a Tuma down.
Yeah,
have
I like
Tuma
the Atuma
die
play
by playing it into the lane, and then plop down in its own lane Phoenix Force, and now you've got a standalone Atuma at 416 technically. Well, 916. You know what I mean. So like throwing that out there, that's a really nice strong play. And then, of course, you have your Taskmaster options. You have a bunch of different things that you could work with there. But it is one of the things like you're talking about where you could be looking at, for example, a move package. You could be looking at a semi-destroy, we'll call it package. But this is not going to be, like you said, just, okay, build your death deck. Like I have a deck coming out for what do you call it? For the feature location on Sunday for Bar Sinister, and I'm running primarily a death package. And it's not a deck I would say take out one of those and put in Phoenix Force, because a lot of those decks are focused around the ramping of Carnage, which doesn't care what dies, so you let little things die. Or from further than that, the things that do die, like, your Winter Soldiers, your Bucky Barneses, etc. They're all small powers. So you're trying to figure out how can I get things to perish quickly that are of moderate power that Phoenix Force can then be a part of, or have it be something that you can multiply out. For example, having the ability to have Deadpool come back. You've got a what do you call it game? You've got a Limbo game out there, right? You have Deadpool die being your only card that you can Killmonger. Have it go back and forth as you normally do with these types of Deadpool packages, and then on turn 5 you play Phoenix Force, and now it goes to a 6. On turn 6 you then kill it again, and now you've got a really rapid double, kind of like the Hulkbuster play.
Yeah,
but
I still need to get
just as cheeky.
I still need to make sure Deadpool would work. He's another one of those cards where I think it's a replacement effect going into your hand, so he can't be revived. But we'll see. I think those are some of the questions. I think the one that I think will be the go-to is it's an anti-Shang-Chi. If I've got Infinite down, I've got Hulk down, or whatever, but whatever's already come down off Lockjaw, and they're going to play Shang-Chi, then having this on turn 6 or 5 or whatever, because they're probably playing Shang-Chi on turn 6, being able to kind of counter that, to be like, okay, you're going to Shang-Chi, but you have priority, and I'm literally just going to play this and bring it right back. Like, I think that there will be some amazing meme stuff, but we do need to see like what some of those cards, which ones will go there. But I agree with you. It's not your typical deck that you're doing, and you're going to have to like refigure out what is possible with the card. Like where can you play it? Where can it fit in? It's already a 5/6, so at worst, it's not that terrible of a card. It's a 5/6 that can move, and at a worst case scenario, it's a 5/7. It's a vision, right? Like even if it's coming back with a Nova, worst case, it's a turn 5 vision. So it's not going to be the worst card in the set. It is a season pass card. If it was a Series 5 card, I don't know if I would be purchasing it day one, compared to other cards and things like that. Right. But I definitely think season pass, I think it'd be a fun card. It's a cool mechanic, like you meant. It's a brand new thing. It's bringing back destroy card. It's not discard cards like we've seen with the Ghost Rider. Maybe if we get like one more card that can do this eventually, I think there's probably a whole huge like revive type deck that we could see, right? The other side of it is it's a Yondu answer. So they Yondu you, it killed your card, and you can bring it back. So I'm curious, like if Yondu will start to become more meta because you're trying to put bad cards. If they're playing this kind of card, you're trying to put their bad cards in there, or is it a liability that now you just hit their Galactus, right? Because like you're gonna hit their Galactus in turn 5. Now they're gonna have this gigantic Galactus coming down that's going to win that lane. Most likely. So I don't know. I'm excited to see, just to your point, like I'm excited to see what's going to happen. And maybe Phoenix Force is a Galactus answer in a way too. They Galactus and blow up the board, and now you're crossing your fingers you hit the right one, but it's still a pretty good card if they do the wave Galactus type thing. But we'll see.
True. That could be really fun. And the anti-Galactus deck. Ooh.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's taken his own hit anyway. But
yeah.
Outside of that, we did have a preview, obviously, from the most recent information that came out about Spotlight caches. They did showcase Jean Grey, which is basically just like her own version of like a reverse Morag in a way. Yeah, like players must play their first card here if possible. So you're either trying to load up the location so you can start ignoring it, or you're using it to your strategic advantage. And as an ongoing, it's also interesting too, because I'm like, okay, then you can further ramp this in other ways. So, I mean, she's intriguing, you know, and she's slated to be a Series 5. Yeah. So I'm just trying to figure out with her, is she worth 6,000 tokens, though? Especially because she'll be the first Series 5 card in the brand new Spotlight Cash system.
So, maybe. So I like her because of what she does, but remember, this is a mirrored effect. It affects both players. So this isn't like a Nebula, right, where you throw down Nebula and they're hoping they're playing into Nebula, so you get to play the rest of the board. You're also having to do it. But I could see this being a fun card, not against Bounce, but against other decks, being able to throw this out and doing something like Patriot. So if you had turn 3, Jean Grey, now they're having to play into that lane. You do Patriot into Mystique into Ultron, and now you've probably won the other 2 lanes, because most decks don't play multiple cards a turn, right? You have Bounce, you have Surfer, you have a couple in there, but like, you know, 20 power coming from Ultron on lanes is significant when you're not allowed to play your Hulk over there, or somebody now has to throw as many cards as they can into that location to try to fill it, so that they can now play elsewhere. So I think she's going to find a few decks and be able to do some cool stuff. She may even be in Bounce, because being in Bounce and being able to play 2 cards a turn and things like that, this may affect them enough to where your Hit Monkey alone can win a lane. Your Beasted, Kitty is your free card in there every time. So
I have one specific one I've just thought of that I think is potentially stupid, but it's using her actually outside of her curve, and it's using her as in 2 different styles of deck. I think she could be really good, obviously, in Surfer because she's a 3 cost, but it's a great defensive piece when you save it for turn 5.
Yeah,
saying that, guess what, you have to play here. You know, it's a predetermined Avengers
arrow in
compound.
a different way.
It's a smaller version of Arrow, because now no matter what, something has to go there first. And I really like that. And I like that a lot when thinking about Jean Grey plus Cloak for a move package. Because you play down Jean Grey in a location, also play Cloak in another location. And yes, sure, you can slide cards over, but no matter what, because of the ongoing effect, they're still going to have to play their first card in that other side. So you can do all those moves. Say you play down a Heimdall on the final turn, then shimmy everything over. So it creates some really fun possibilities when you start thinking about Jean Grey as a later play. I like the Patriot play a lot. I hadn't thought of that yet, but I like the idea of her being a control card in the latter half, where maybe you utilize her on something with like Professor X. You use a combination for her on turn 4, and then lock down. If you see the combo that's going to be set up, you lock down that lane entirely, or you play a Wasp combo to play into Jean Grey and then go lock down another one. There's a couple of cheeky control combinations, and I think that's going to probably be her, her focus, obviously, is what is she comboing into for 1 turn later. I don't think it's a longevity play unless if it's a very specific build combo like you're talking about, whether it's Mystique and Patriot or Blue Marvel or Onslaught or yada yada, all these kind of peoples. Something along those lines, sure, but she's going to be a good control card. I don't know if she's going to be meta yet, but if I had to lean in a direction, I would say that she's going to be strong. I'm just happy I'm going to have some caches banked up, so I'm not going to spend 6,000 tokens on her, because I'm on the edge, if you will. I'm on the edge about it because it's not the only ongoing play. Kind of, sort of, because we also have Echo coming the following week at Series 5. So Echo, which I think is just...
This is the card that I think everybody's talking about, and I believe the community is on one side or the other. You either love her or you hate her. I don't feel like there's really a lot of in between on this card.
Yeah, it's going to help so much though. it's going to shake up so much because it's going to be a target card for a lot of people. She's going to be a target card for me in particular because ongoing abilities are incredibly relevant. Where, you know, she's a 1/2 for those who aren't on the YouTube side. Where Echo as a 1/2, after your opponent plays an ongoing card here, remove its abilities. Now, we haven't gotten it confirmed yet if this is for every ongoing card that your opponent plays here, or if it's just the first time that an ongoing card is played here. But having that ability, knowing that if they play Korg into Zabu, you're snapping.
Yeah.
Because you know that they're running Darkhawk. So just wait for it and control where that Darkhawk can actually go. Put down the Echo. Done. It's removed. You know they played Nick Fury down on 4. Okay. Lock down that Devil Dino location. You know, like there are certain possibilities within this. And my favorite one is as a Galactus counter too. Having it go down on turn 6 to anti-null.
Yeah, as long as you have priority. That's the problem with the Galactus play is now you'll never have priority. Or you had to flip second.
Ooh, true.
On 5.
True.
But
You're right.
I agree. I think a lot of people look at this card and the people that are on the naysayer fence are, well, you're going to play her on turn 1. They're just not going to play there. So it's never going to do anything. But to that point, if you're doing it that way, you're doing it on purpose in the fact that you're saying, that's fine. I literally just shut them down on, I created the location that takes away ongoing abilities. Like, it's fine to do that if you want to go ahead and do it, especially in a battle mode, right? Like throwing it down just to mess with them. And then later on, you can maybe catch them, right? So like you do that on one particular part of your game, but then another part of your game, it may be a turn 3 or turn 4. You've already predicted where they're going to try to Devil Dino you. You've already tried to do certain things, and you're kind of moving things around. So I agree with you. I think she's going to be really powerful. It should be, based on wording and all of that, it should be every card that lands in that space removes their ongoing. But here's the thing. They may throw their Red Skull, their Shuri Red Skull into that particular place. So it is
true.
Pros and cons. Yeah, it is pros and cons with that particular card. But I think it's a cool mechanic. It's funny that it isn't just a standard, like, hey, I'm going to shut off all the abilities here, rather than they have to play into it, right? It's not just cards at this location don't get, don't have their ongoings. It's also, it's one-sided, right? Yes, they can throw in their negative effects like Typhoid Mary and things like that, but it's one-sided. You can still play your Devil Dino here and not worry about it. So I think all in all, I think she's a good card. I think she's going to find a couple places to get experimentation with. I don't know if she's taking over a spot of the better 1-drops, though. I think she's ending up in the same spot as like a Ghost. I think she's better than a Ghost, but like she's ending up in that same spot where like she's going to be very particular in a very particular deck. She's going to be good, but same thing here. This would be one that I wouldn't spend my tokens on, but if I open her in my first Spotlight Cache or my second Spotlight Cache, I'm happy. I don't know if I'm going all the way to my 4th Spotlight Cache, which I probably am because I'm a filthy whale, but for the average person, I don't know if you go all the way to your 4th Spotlight Cache on this, but if you get her in the first 1 or 2, which is still like 20 caches, so like just keep that in mind with the math, but you're probably okay opening this one.
I'd be okay if I opened her. I don't think I'd be okay if I opened Legion. Because
you don't like Legion?
I have one play that I'm excited about with Legion, and I guarantee you're not thinking of it. So Legion, for those who do not know, is a 5/7. On reveal, replace each other location with this one, with the location that he's at. I have one cheeky play. I'll tell you in a second. I want to hear why you're semi-excited for Legion.
No, here's the thing. I'm not like super excited about Legion. I just think it's going to be funny when you can literally do things and manipulate locations. So, for instance, like a Savage Lands, right? Like all of a sudden, turn 5, they've got an open space, and you've got one open space on Savage Lands. You're like, hey, check this out, bam, and I just locked down 2 of their locations that they thought they were going to play into. And then my turn 6 is like Killmonger and something, right? Like I'm like, I got you again with my Killmonger. Like I don't know. I think nice. I think it's going to be a fun thing because there's a lot of locations that people may kind of forget about. Like even like what's the collapsed mines, right? Or like the meme of it all, which will be a meme video, Rickety Bridge. Somebody throws them into Rickety Bridge and it's like, here goes the board, good game. And here's my Wolverine for turn 6. So like I think that there will be some fun things that happen with them, and I think that's why I think it'll be an interesting card. I don't think there's specifically, unless you're building your decks like all around it, because the locations are so random outside of your spotlight location, I don't think he'll find his way into a bunch of decks because you can't guarantee anything. But I am curious what happens if you have 3 egos, which ego plays.
They all of a sudden switch to a new VFX audio clip of "We Are Ego," and the game just fucking explodes.
Yeah. You just see the lightning grabbing. They're grabbing all your cards, and they can't because you don't have the energy, and it doesn't know what to do.
I'm sitting here with an iPhone going, "How the fuck did I just get a blue screen of death? That doesn't exist on this iOS." Anyway, no. Here's the play I've got, and it's so stupid that it'll work. I want to play Legion in Cerebro 3.
Okay.
Bast, Rhino, Legion.
Okay.
Because one of the biggest issues with Cerebro right now is that the playability around the location control is incredibly tough, which is why Cerebro is constantly in the bottom. It's always a C tier potential option. And some people have great luck with it. Some people really have mastered it. Great, cool, awesome. It's kind of respected differently because you do need RNG luck automatically. But when I am looking at it from the aspect of, hang on, I can control a location. I can have a Rhino turn something into the ruins. Legion then becomes interesting. So you have him in your deck and you only have it if it's going to be a Bast type situation. And then if you Bast that Legion to make him 3 power, then you know what? We're okay. Because now he fits in with the equation.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I was thinking about like Storm possibilities. But it wouldn't necessarily, you'd have to play Storm on 4, Legion on 5. But then as we've also learned, if like you storm a storm or if it's one of those, oh my God, what's it called? When it copies another location.
Yeah, like reset, right?
Yeah. No. The location that copies another location on turn 4 or something like that. I always forget it. But it's always for the following turn. So it's not like you can lock down the board early on turn 5. It doesn't work like that. Because you wouldn't be able to get them down into the right spot. Yeah. It would be flooding, not flooded. So I was sitting here going, what locations can I build? Now, the cheeky plays you're talking about, for example, with like doubling the Raptors and all that. I mean, I had that luxury and experiment with Snowguard, and it's a lot of fun, but it's memey. And when it works, you sit there the entire time just, with your head in your hands going, how in the living hell did that just work? I shouldn't have had this card to do this. And because it's that inconsistent and you only have 12 cards in the deck, I don't think you build a deck around Legion. I think Legion becomes one of those awesome cards that you hang on to for featured and hot location days exclusively.
I would agree with that.
Wait for those days and then you prosper very heavily on playing Legion down in those moments. That's it.
Yeah, I think the problem with him in general is that he's a 5 cost. Like I think if you could play him earlier on a turn 2 or a turn
100%.
Like 4 still feels a little too late, and I don't really want to put him in the Surfer deck. Like so it's a weird thing to where like maybe if you could play him on 2 to really but we don't have all locations revealed. So like there's this weird spot where I just think 5 is too late to be doing that with it being so random. Whereas if you could do it earlier and maybe it would have to be 3, or maybe it's a 2 and that's why you play Watu. Because the thing is when you start the game, the location's already resolved. So like what happens if he was a 2 or let's say you get Project Pegasus on turn 1. When I play him into 3, like, and maybe you just play him in a Project Pegasus anyway, so then you get 2 other ones next turn. But like, if you throw him into the 3rd lane, right, and it replaces all the other ones, like maybe if he was a 2, that would bring Watu's value back up, because now it's like, oh, if he's a 2, I want Watu so I can actually see what locations I got, and I'll be able to use them early and do that. And that's a 2-card combo. Now again, he wouldn't have 7 power and all of that. He'd be a lot cheaper. But like, I think 5 is just, you've already committed to a game plan with the locations that you have and the cards that you're playing. I don't really see where in most games changing all 3 locations are really going to help you that much.
On the final turn, I think that we learned that from Snowguard, watching the cheekiness that happens of like, oh, you could do this on a limbo match and end it early and like, sure. But the amount of times in which you actually create that environment with a Snowguard, there's a reason she's the least played card in the game. There's a reason. And I think Legion's going to find out that reason real quick. I agree with changing his cost and power and making him a card you could play earlier. I think even at 4 cost, he's much more viable to have 2 turns to figure out some multiples, because there are a lot of locations that have effects that happen on turn 5.
Well, and you could do like Citadel, right? Like copying a Citadel on 4 and then all having Dino on 5 and having, you know, Ronin on 6 or whatever. Like, I agree. I think by any reduction will make him more playable. I think he really needs to be an early card to really set it in stone of what you're doing. But, and again,
granted, now let's put the asterisk though. Let's put an asterisk. We're recording this in the morning on Friday morning. We could get an announcement and all of a sudden they revealed a new Legion and he's like a 1/4. And we're just all sitting here and the last 20 minutes did absolutely nothing. Let's just put that out there, okay? Because we're working with data mine information right now. So hold on, folks. I don't want to. I want to put that out there in case if all of a sudden people go, well, that didn't age well. You know, just let's just play it safe by understanding that.
And he is potentially towards the end of the month, so they have plenty of time if they wanted to tweak. And again, these would be more of an OTA change. So we'll see. We'll see.
Living Tribunal 2.0.
Yeah. So we've got Mirage being the other one, which she got a huge revamp as well based on the original data mines and where she is now. Originally, it was like when she came in, she was going to be Cyclops or something, and at the end of turn, she would change from being Cyclops. Most likely that got changed because of high evolutionary anyway. But I like this ability. So she's a 2/2. On reveal, copy the lowest card in your opponent's hand into your hand and give it +2. So now it's a steal. It's not a steal, it's a copy, but it's a smaller White Queen, right? So White Queen gives you the biggest card. Mirage is kind of giving them the smallest. And if you play this correctly, turn 4, turn 3, like a little further in, not turn 2, but a little bit further in, you may hit a bigger card. They may have already played out all their 1s and 2s, and now you're getting a 3 cost, a 4 cost, and yours is better than theirs. So I like it. I mean, what are your thoughts there?
She's the one out of all of them I'm the most excited about. I think she's going to be the most plug and play because of, like you said, that White Queen ability, that idea of I'm gaining information for only 2 cost.
Yep.
Whether you play it or not is irrelevant. Number 2, this has a forge mechanic built into it, so I'm getting +2 power on that card anyway. Yep. So worst case scenario, it's a 1/2 coming into your hand for free at 2 cost. That means that this is a knowledge equivalent of Maria Hill with less randomness. Well, it's showing me something. Because at worst, that's what I'm saying. At least at worst case scenario, Maria Hill
2/2.
goes down at a 2/3 and gives you a sunspot, right? Which is a 1/0, let's say.
Oh yeah, I forgot what sunspot. I was wondering what your 0 was. I was thinking the worst case would be Adam Warlock.
But even if you got Wasp, but that's what I'm saying. Even if you got Wasp or Yellow Jacket at 0 cost, which would be the lowest one in that instance.
But those are 0/3 and 0/4. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think it's good. I think there's not much she can hit that would be bad on that.
Yeah. Exactly. So. And as you said, playing it even a little bit later on, if you see that they went Storm into Juggernaut. Okay, it's a Surfer deck. You know, I'm going to try and pull out, you know, maybe they pull their Maximus because they're sitting on it, or maybe they pull a Jeff because they're sitting on it, or, you know, you wait till they're playing a ramp deck and it's very obvious they play Electro 3, Sandman 4. They're sitting on a boatload of big cards. You play Mirage on 5 and copy their big card on 6. You know, there's a lot that you can do with Mirage. I think as a overall 2-cost tech piece, she out of the 4 is the one I am the most excited for. And she just like Legion is also slated to be a Series 4 release. So she's going to be cheaper. She's going to be in a week that I would say she's worth 3,000 tokens. Save your caches for 2 weeks from then, because after that you have another season pass week, and then you have your next series release come August. So she's the card I'm most excited for. I'm so happy she's in the final week of the season. She's the one that I'm going to be recommending to people out of everybody right now, followed by Jean Grey, followed by Echo, in my opinion. I think Jean Grey has a higher ceiling than Echo does right now, because Echo is going to be very meta-dependent of if it's a lot of ongoings, you play Echo. If it's not a lot of ongoings, you don't play Echo. Pretty basic and simple at that point, even though Echo could undo Professor X, but that'd be really cheeky. Just think about that.
First, you flip first. I mean, I've done that with Enchantress. Like, tried to predict it if you know you flip second and let them play Professor X, and then
just target it right there. It's awesome. But either way, I think Mirage is probably the best of all of the drops next month. And I'm probably going to get shit for that, and I don't care. So that's just the way I look at it.
I think, I mean, I'm on the same page as you. I think as far as tech playability and the fact that she's not, it goes back to Spider-Ham, right? Like when we talked about this the other month, when we were looking at all those new cards, like all the other cards outside of maybe Ghost Spider, a lot of the other cards really felt like you had to be in a very specific deck. But Spider-Ham worked in everything. And that's why we're seeing Spider-Ham in everything. And Mirage is the same thing. It's just like a White Queen. It's just like some of these other cards where you're getting information, you're getting a card, you're getting a better card than whatever you normally would have gotten. And she's a 2-drop. There's not a lot of, like, unless you're playing like Darkhawk and you need Zabu on 2 or whatever, a lot of decks really don't care what their two play is, right? So like, there's good cards that are out there, and you'll be talking about your deck in just a minute with Medusa and things like that. Like there are some good 2s. I'm not saying there aren't. I'm just saying if you're in a deck where you don't need armor, you don't need Zabu, you don't need a specific 2-drop, she could easily fit in there. It gives you a potential extra 1-drop for turn 6 or 5 when you're trying to fix your mana curve, right? Potential. You could also just get like an Infinite because for some reason all they have is 6-drops in their hand, but it's a cool mechanic, and I think I agree with you. I think she will be one of the more used cards out of this month, and it's good to notate. I know we've talked about this too, about like with this new system, what do you do with your caches? What do you do with that? Do you just always have 40 laying around, and once you get the card you stop? Do you want to get the spotlight variants? And I think when you look at these cards, you have to decide if you don't like any of those spotlight variants, if the card itself, you open one cache and didn't get it, you just turn around and use your tokens, right? Like there's going to be a lot of those of like this month, use your or this week, use your tokens, just get the card, skip over it. If you've got X tokens, if you got 5,000 tokens, just go ahead and use it. And then, keep saving or whatever. So
if I wasn't impatient, that would be my strategy, because, like you, I'm sitting at a full collection. So I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm going to get the season pass. That's that week. It is what it is. But then you've got Jean Grey at Series 5 and Echo at Series 5. Yeah. I might just wait a week after getting Jean Grey, after not getting Jean Grey, wait for the Echo week, because then that will be my guaranteed Series 4, Series 5 card, because it's the only other one I don't have. Yeah. So I'm going to get those 2 cards guaranteed. Yeah. So I'm debating about how to, from if you're at full collection, I would recommend don't get Jean Grey in the first week she's there. Just wait for the second week and you used half the amount of caches potentially. Yeah.
Unless they drop some amazing looking variant, spotlight variant that you really want to get. Like I think that's true. I think that is going to be a piece for some particular people. Some people care about variants and some people don't. So, but I would agree.
Like your opponent.
I think there's definitely some things that are going to be interesting to do. I'm the same way. I think I'm at 36 or 37 caches right now, just kind of hanging out,
about the same.
trying to get up to the 40 to make sure I have those for week 1 or month 1 or whatever, and then trying to go from there. But I'm excited though. I'm excited about the new acquisition next month, potentially, right? There's always an asterisk It's slated for the next patch, but if something breaks or doesn't
work, it's
been
fucking bothering me, dude. It's called an asterisk. Asterisk.
No, it's asterisk.
Asterisk. You've said it like 4 times this podcast, and it's been annoying the shit out of me.
I'm from the South, and it's just like when we ask you a question. I can tell by the hat.
Dear God.
It's just like when we ask you a question.
You even added an extra syllable in ax. It asked you a question? What's the extra T there?
That's how it's said, man. That's how it's said when you're in the country.
Maybe it's the tri-state area in me. You know, let me ask you a question. You know, like that kind of like. But dear God, it's an asterisk for those who are looking for any kind of education in this podcast. It ends in risk. Asterisk, SK, not KSTD. Q, whatever the hell you add on in there.
Just letters.
Yeah, and you're clearly not silent either. Anyway, moving on. Let's just show the deck of the week.
Going into there, talking about 2 drops and/or 3 drops. This is your deck, man. This is the Silver Medusa. What do you got here?
Yeah, I mean, it's my deck, but not my deck. Let's be honest here. So this is the deck I used to get through the Infinity Conquest and that full grind I talked about in the beginning of the podcast. I took this deck from Proving Grounds all the way to level 2 of Infinity Conquest, redid Infinity Conquest, and went 5-0, just straight on through. Yep. Hit everything, bounce, high evolutionary along the way between all of the battles, went all the way through, got it all, you name it, it happened. This is basically the Meowcat Silver Surfer deck, but I took out Lizard and I put in Medusa because I liked the consistency that I had from Medusa, and knowing that bounce is so prevalent, playing Lizard down, I felt that there was a lot more risk for Lizard to be a 2-1, and I'd rather guarantee the 2-2 if needed elsewhere from Medusa. The control from Goose on this deck was fantastic. For those who are listening, it's a pretty standard Surfer list, but does not contain Sera. It contains Nova, Goose, Medusa, Jeff the Baby Land Shark, Brood, Silver Surfer, Storm, Juggernaut, Killmonger, Groot, Polaris, and Maximus. Oh, yes, you can take out Jeff, and you can put in Lizard if you want to. So that way it's a full Series 3 friendly deck at this point. You would be able to play this one all the way through, no issues. And the reason I like this one without Surfer, without Sera in this Surfer list, is because you have 3 2-drops. You have a lot of flexibility to still play just as many cards on turn 5 and 6 by playing a 3-drop plus a 2-drop, and then follow that with 2 3-cost cards on turn 6 versus play Sera on 5 and 3 what were previously 3-cost cards on turn 6. Either way, it's still 4 cards.
Yeah.
And depending on the card that you're putting out there, it's either the flexibility from Jeff, the 5 power that you can get from Medusa, or the control aspect, which comes in so handy when you're playing against high evolutionary decks. Playing that Goose down on turn 5 into the lane that you clearly know they were saving for Hulk, man, that pisses off opponents so much. Goose came in through absolutely huge, probably my favorite piece there. People critiqued the Groot, and I tell you confidently, he is a card that you save for turn 5 and 6. When you know there are less spaces to work with, you can kind of figure out roughly the play patterns, especially in Conquest, where it's a lot easier to target with Groot. So having him be a 3/6, that once he goes up again via Silver Surfer, he's still under Shang-Chi range. So you'd have to have the perfect combo of Killmonger and getting Groot down early, and then, you know, that Nova goes off, and then Silver Surfer, and then he become a 3/9 that gets Shang-Chi'd. You still got Maximus, though. Yeah. So you could only Shang-Chi one lane, and it's only 2 cards in the entire deck that even maybe get to that possibility. You know me, I'm a big fan of cards that get between 5 to 8 power regularly because it spreads very wide, and it is hard to predict against. That's why I love Surfer decks so much so, and this one was very consistent. It's played incredibly smooth, and it was a very sweaty moment, not gonna lie, in that game 5. I'm live on air, and I literally just took the microphone and just shoved it away from me. I'm like, we're not talking. Just like, you're not getting anything out of me. I am in full try hard music. Like, I'm in the zone playing because it was hard. But this deck did it. Absolutely.
I tried this deck. I've lost with this deck multiple times. I've won with the deck. I've won with the deck, and I've lost. So just be aware if you're trying the deck in Conquest, there are 2 potentially bad matchups right now that I kept hitting, which is the new high Evo build, which evolves around the Cyclops thing, that kind of combo where they're saving energy. So for instance, like your Goose and things like that, they're not reliant on some of the big, huge plays. So I lost a few times against that deck, which is just, it's a weird deck because they wave on 5. They do weird stuff that's just not anticipated. So that it takes away your double play on 6, which actually really significantly hurts the power level of the card, or of the cards. Again, it's a great deck. When I win, and I was doing well, but I did hit that matchup in particular, as well as another matchup, which was I don't know why, for some reason people are playing my deck, but the Nimrod, whatever, like I know he just got a buff and everybody seems to be on, but I've been playing that deck for a long time and now it's everywhere. And like, it's another one of those things to where if you're trying to, your Goose, Nimrod doesn't care. So if you do them too early, they just do them somewhere else. The only time, and this is just kind of a critique, if you see the deck, if you can tell where they're putting their Shuri down, put the Goose where you think they're going to put your Shuri and do it on turn 4. It's like the only real way to stop that deck, because once they do Shuri plus Nimrod, all your destroy cards gets underneath it because there's no Cosmo in the list. So I would just say, if you're experimenting, the only other card I would maybe experiment with is potentially Cosmo with these weird, because there's a lot of Black Panther decks running around. There's a lot of just differences.
You could take out Groot if you needed to, for a Cosmo piece. Absolutely. You could also put in Shadow King if that's your preference, because Shadow King I love in a Surfer deck right now, especially with all of the ramp ability. Absolutely. You could go ahead and do that swap. But if you're going to run a Surfer deck without Sera, it has to be 3 2-cost cards in the deck.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely needs to be.
I've never really been a huge fan.
Duo.
I've never really been a solid fan of Sera because of the fact that you think like, oh, I get to do 3/3 drops. And yes, you can surprise people. But you also look at it and it's like, but I'm wasting a whole turn 5 where I could have that 3-drop, that third 3-drop could have already come down on turn 5. So it's, I like what you did here. Like I said, the deck works. I was winning matches with it. Just be really aware of those 2 particular matchups because I'm seeing them a lot right now
to play around,
and they're very difficult with this deck, and that's going back to, I think, Conquest, good mode. It's just that RNG is very frustrating. So have fun with it. I like your deck though. Yeah. So
it's a lot of fun. I absolutely love this deck. I recommend this deck to anybody and everybody because it can be very Series 3 friendly. Like I said, just take out Jeff and put in Lizard. Groot is flexible. You can go ahead and put in Cosmo, Shadow King, any other Series 3 power 3-cost card and make it work. Big fan, big fan. You could even put in Beast and go ahead and Storm and then Beast the Storm and then play her a second time later on. Just throwing that out there for shits and giggles. You have a lot of different plays in which you could mess with this. It's fun. Just don't run Sera. That's the moral of the story. Don't run Sera. Maybe that's what I'll title the episode. But either way, we have the World Snap Federation tonight to prepare for. We have all the fun stuff also to prepare for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is where we say thank you. Please give us a rating over on whatever service you're watching this or listening this on, whether it's a comment in the YouTube comments or going to ratethispodcast.com or just type a rating in Apple or Google or Spotify or wherever you're listening to the podcast. That is more than tremendously appreciated and helps get this podcast sent out to more and more folks. So once again, that red and black and white bearded person over there, that's Mr. Default Dan. My name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming. We will be back next week as always. And thank you all so much for joining us here on the Snap Back podcast, where you snap and we snap back. Default Dan, say goodbye to the lovely folks.
Y'all take it easy.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to rub it in your face in the outro that I have an infinity border and you still don't.
I know.
It's not often I get to do this.
I'm debating how many more times I'm going to try to run it this weekend. So
not enough to get it.